Update. Mr. Berkey.
I just wanted to remind everyone that Friday of this week, starting at 8 until 3, we will be having the literacy rollout at the Bayfront.
Hello. Are you, okay, I hear you now. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all right.
And all are welcome to come if you wanted to stop in at any time of your day. We'll be there and we'll be sharing with the teachers and the administrators the first look at the curriculum as a whole. And then the other piece to that is we will be having June 4th will be the last day for elementary school students, because June 5th and 6th will be their full day trainings. So they'll have the 2-day trainings.
Where did you say that was?
Pardon me?
Where is it located again?
At the Bayfront Convention Center.
Thank you.
And then they're continually working on math. Our hopes is by May that we would be able to come to you with some information that the committee has worked on and presented to the superintendent, and have another good day for your public.
Super. Thank you. Early kindergarten testing.
Good evening, everyone. We just wanted to talk to you briefly tonight about early kindergarten testing. Some of you may or may not be aware that that is board policy. We do allow any child who will be 5 within the month of September, if their parent requests it, to be tested for early entry into kindergarten. Within the past couple of years, we've found some issues around that, however. First of all, it used to be a very rare occurrence. Now more and more people are requesting it, and we're getting more concerns expressed by principals and teachers about whether or not these students are actually really ready. So we did a little research into it, and we found out that Pennsylvania is one of only 6 states that allows districts to come up with their own cutoff dates for when a child can enter kindergarten. Other states develop their own. We also found from research that a lot of kids that are under age 5.5 are truly not ready for kindergarten, and that even though kids are exposed more to preschool and daycare now, that's not as important as whether or not they're actually ready developmentally for kindergarten. So the next slide shows you some of the area district policies. And if you look, Erie City is one of only a handful of districts in the county that actually do early entry kindergarten testing, and we're also one of the districts that have one of the latest 5th birthday deadlines. So, what are the risks? When a child's not ready, there are several risks, including negative self-esteem, negative interaction with peers, and then not getting the supports that they need to be successful. It also can stress the resources of the district, because these kids need more remediation and may eventually need to be referred for maybe even special education services down the road. So, we found that best practice in this area would be an assessment process that's more comprehensive, that assesses kids to make sure that they're really ready cognitively, behaviorally, and socially, and also parent counseling with parents, though, that they can understand their students' areas of strength and whether or not they're really ready for kindergarten. So our concerns are, although we found that there are a number of different areas that impact kindergarten readiness, we're really only testing for that first one, which is knowledge. We use the Brackett Basic Concept Scale, and part of this is because our school psychologists only work the teacher calendar. They don't work in the summer. We kind of have a few days of flexibility because they work a few extra days in the calendar. So it's really going to be difficult for us to use that best practice guideline of that really comprehensive assessment and the parent counseling, because we just don't have the resources to do it. But I personally, I don't know about you, Diane, I was so concerned that if we recommended to you that we no longer do that early kindergarten testing, then we might lose some parents to other districts or charter schools or parochial schools. So we looked at our data, and it wasn't good. But what we found, if you look here, is that in the past 3 years, a lot of these students who we're testing for early kindergarten are not even coming to us. They're either going to parochial schools, charter schools. Some of them we couldn't even find on our database at all. So that means they never even enrolled with us. actually, I wondered myself, are we actually like seeing if these parents, are we asking them for proof of residency to see if they're actually in our attendance area before we're testing them? Because we couldn't find a number of them. Some of them have been retained, some of them have been referred for special education testing, and there are a few who have done okay. But for the most part, the data does not really support early kindergarten entry testing. So we wanted to recommend to the superintendent that he recommend a resolution to discontinue this. But before we did that, we wanted to get your thoughts, ideas, concerns, questions. And Diana, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I don't have much to add. Angie, I feel like has shared with you what the information says, and so just really a couple of additional considerations from my perspective are, number one, we now offer pre-K in all of our elementary buildings, and so if families are looking for something for their child before kindergarten, we offer that in all of our elementary buildings now. And the other thing that really strikes me when Angie and I talk about this issue is that we're really testing for knowledge when you're 4.5 years old. And if we in fact believe that probably comes from your experiences and what you've been exposed to, we might not be able to say after a year's worth of pre-K or a year's worth of kindergarten or time in our schools that we wouldn't have more children who would be more ready or whatever that would look like based on really their experiences from 0 to age 4.5. Third, and really the final consideration, is that we ask you to trust us and we trust our teachers that they can differentiate in the classroom. So if I come in as a 5-year-old a little bit advanced, my needs will be met in kindergarten. If I come in very advanced as a 5-year-old in kindergarten, my needs will still be met. And if I come into kindergarten as a 5-year-old and I'm struggling a bit, my needs will be met. So really that understanding that we expect differentiation and see differentiation in our classrooms is another reason from my perspective where this might not be necessary any longer.
Any questions? Go ahead.
First, good pull on the emotional tug of it. With you trust us, we trust you thing. That was good. I approve. Second is, are we seeing why parents are wanting to bring their kids in?
I can tell you that we have actually, surveyed them regarding that. If I had to guess, I would guess because they do have more access to preschool now, and maybe after a couple of years in pre-K, they don't want their child to have another year in pre-K if they only have a year in kindergarten. That's what I would suspect, but no, we haven't really surveyed them to find out why. Other than that, apparently they feel that their child's ready for kindergarten.
Is pre-K all day?
Yes.
It is all day too?
Yes.
Okay. So I was just curious if it was because, as a working parent, sometimes just having that all day routine versus the half day would be some motivation.
Anybody else?
I was under the impression that pre-K was not only a fun educational thing, but a precursor, that if you went through the pre-K, that you would darn close to automatically be enrolled in kindergarten the following year. Again, depending upon the age, I don't know what the minimum age is for pre-K, but what is it, 3.5?
It's 4, our pre-K this year is 4 years in-house, and so there is no gap. So you're in pre-K as a 4-year-old, you start kindergarten as a 5-year-old.
And I thought that way too, really, until I did some of the background research on this, and really they were saying that it is more, brain-based developmental, and you would think that that exposure to pre-K would contribute to that, right? But it doesn't appear that that's the case with all students, unless a child is really, truly gifted. Like we say, a child is gifted. And again, you really need to do that comprehensive, more extensive testing and the counseling with the parent that we really just don't have the resources to provide with the way, the school psychologist calendar right now would work like the teachers do with just a few extra days that we're able to give to doing this test.
Thanks.
Kelly?
Great job, and I agree with the recommendation from a developmental point of view. And I was telling Bea, I actually read an article once I saw you were presenting tonight that was done out of Harvard, where students that were allowed to enroll in kindergarten before the age limit at a younger age were more often found to be diagnosed with ADHD. So I found that interesting as well.
Yeah.
So.
I agree, Darnell. You know, the thing is, I don't think it's any accident that most of the districts in the county have a much earlier cutoff than we do. I mean, I think that that's definitely purposeful. I mean, they're looking to make sure that their students are really ready for kindergarten when they start, and you know, to just set them up for success right from the beginning.
So if a child is maybe in second or third grade, if they've been found to be emotionally able to handle it and gifted academically, they can still be advanced later on. There's no rush to have these kids go to school soon, right? That's the way I would take it. Say there is a gifted child, we wouldn't be able to tell a parent, hey, great, you have a brilliant little 4-year-old, but he can hang out with the rest of the 4-year-olds until they can get emotionally.
And that's Diane's point, is that, we can meet the students' needs, regardless of whether or not they're more advanced for their age or whether they need more support.
I would agree that point is what you would make to the parents when they're asking for this, that you're saying, look, just allow your child to grow emotionally, and if we evaluate, we'll keep our eyes open, and if we evaluate your child is advanced and that his education is stagnating and boring him, that he needs him or her, boring him or her to move forward, that we have programs that are going to move him forward as we move along. So I totally agree.
Anyone else? Okay,
Thank you.
And Angie's up here. I'd just like to share that she recently completed her doctorate.
PA Smart Grant, Ms. Dolak and Ms. Mikowski.
Good evening. Pam and I have recently had a chance to work on some exciting opportunities for our students, and we wanted to share some of that with you so that you can share it with your neighbors or in the grocery store or wherever you might run into people who might ask you questions about these things. We started with a committee in November, a cybersecurity committee, because we know of need for students to have these skills, and that there's a growing workforce and data that says that students need these skills as they're coming up through school. So we met with Mercyhurst in November after convening this committee, posting, and people bid and they're interested, and we sat down and we talked. It was a very exciting conversation, but then we kind of came to the point where we're like, what's the next step? And then within a week, these 2 grant opportunities came open, and on a very tight timeline, we worked again with Mercyhurst to submit the grants. And I'll tell you a little bit of background about the grants. They're both PA Smart grants. One is called Targeted, and the focus for that was elementary schools. It was $35,000. 251 districts applied for that. 249 were awarded. So it was sort of everybody, except for 2 non-public schools, were awarded that $35,000. $10,000 of that is for training, and for our purposes, we'll use that in 5th through 8th grade. And Pam will go a little bit more into our current status right now. And then, so $10,000 for training and $25,000 for equipment. So it's not a great deal, but it's a good start, especially in 5th grade, where we have no offerings right now. So it was sort of like we back-built, and then the bigger grant was for $500,000, and that was focused in prioritizing high schools. So again, we're looking at this data that says by the year 2026, 15,000 jobs in Pennsylvania will be unfilled at the current rate that we're producing graduates of both high school and college. And lots of other data that was examined said that we aren't serving our kids in the way that we need to, all the while we're doing great work with fundamentals, we're doing curriculum implementations, and we're doing things that we have to do. Here's this missing piece that was this opportunity to fund if we were to get the grant. So for instance, software developers are slated to increase at 33%.
Now that requires a college degree, but the starting salaries for those are over $80,000. And then requiring a high school degree or industry credentials, like a computer network support specialist. It's still a living wage, but it's a high school diploma plus an A plus, security plus, some industry credential that we will be able to provide. So there's a lot, there were a lot of reasons why we needed to do this. And there were 151 of the advancing grants, that's the $500,000, and only 23 awards for that. So we're really excited to have been involved in that group of 23 who got the award. And we asked for the maximum amount that we could, which was $500,000, and we have a very, very tight timeline in which to spend that. But I'll go into that after Pam tells a little bit more about our current status, and I'll pass these out. So you can take a look at what she's explaining to you. Take one and pass it around.
So a little bit of the background from the grant, they were saying that in the Commonwealth, 300,000 jobs by the year 2026 will require some STEM skills or computing skills. So part of the grant requirements was for us to go through and do a narrative about what we currently offer, how many students are currently enrolled. Statewide, out of 1.7 million students, there's only 2% of the students that are currently enrolled in a computer science course. So when I went through and did our data, we weren't too far off from that. In the middle schools, as Nora said, they currently have a computer program. They have some computer experiences that they're getting. All three middle schools have that. It's the second year. We brought that back last year. This is the second year. So all the middle schools have some computer skills that they're getting. It looks a little bit different at each middle school, but every one of the middle school kids are getting that. At the high school, it's pretty sparse. If you look at that top chart, at Collegiate Academy, they have a full year AP computer science course. There's 18 students enrolled in it. We don't have that at Erie High. We have the Career and Technical Education computer programming course. That's a 4-year program. It's not offered at Collegiate. We currently have 41 students enrolled in that. And then there's an Intro to Programming course, which is a semester course. Both Collegiate and Erie High students get the opportunity to take that. There's 57 at Collegiate and 12 currently enrolled in that at Erie High. So when you add those up, at Collegiate, there's 75 out of almost 800 and some kids enrolled in a computer course. And at Erie High, there's 53 out of nearly 2,300. So it's pretty low. The bottom part then, the other part of the grant, was to look at traditionally underserved students. Statewide, they say that female IEP students and students of color rarely take a computer class. 75% of people in a computer class are white males. So the grant really focused on traditionally underserved students, and that's the bottom chart. I took what we currently have and what those percentages are of the students that take those courses. Excuse me. And overall, only 4% of our combined high school population takes a computer course. Now we're a little high in the female students. Statewide, it's only like 1.2%. So we have Collegiate has 4% of their female students that take a computer class, but unfortunately, Erie High is very low in all those categories. There's hardly any IEP students or students of color in those courses. So part of the purpose of the grant was to expand our offerings to those targeted populations.
Our unfortunate statistics made our grant very appealing because we have a high level of need. We have underrepresented students, we have at-risk students, and we had to detail those demographics. So that made us a good candidate. So on the other side from the chart that Pam was referencing, so these are the activities on the top 2/3 of the page. The first is a review of scientific literature that Mercyhurst is conducting that. They want to look for what's the most interesting for students to draw them into something involving computer science. How do you get a foothold there? because students don't necessarily think, wow, I think I want to study computer science or programming, and consider that to be something fun and engaging. But there are ways to do that. So the scientific literature is going to drive the rest of the activities. Then we're going to streamline our K-12 computer science pathway. That's going to be done in conjunction with Mercyhurst and the smaller grant. So we have a middle school population that's served. We'll back that up to 5th grade so that the middle school population doesn't have to do so much computer literacy. How do you open an attachment? How do you attach a document to an email? I mean, those are the types of things they're doing right now. If we can start that in 5th grade and even lower grades, then they'll be able to get more into coding in middle school. So that training will be able to take place. And then in high school, they will be working closely with Mercyhurst. The teachers will be working closely with the Mercyhurst teachers to develop curriculum. There's an idea to run a student-run help desk at each of the high schools just to provide basic support for people who need it. So that would require some training and some coursework. There would be criteria for students they would have to meet in order to be given the responsibility. Then we have new courses for 1920, and I just put these through Julie Agaron probably a week ago. But we have AP Computer Science Principles starting next year at Collegiate and Erie High School. And which, V, you sent that article out last night from the College Board. Mm-hmm. It talked about the 2 codes. So the College Board is saying every student should be taking AP Computer Science Principles. And I said, great, because I just put forward the course so we can start that. And the other code they said is AP US. You need to know the Constitution and you need to know computer programming. So that's the stance of the College Board right now. So there are the courses that are emerging for next year. Computer Science 1 and 2 at Erie High School, Advanced Computer Applications. So we'll have something available for freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors. Needs assessment so that we understand what we have and then the hardware that we need, which will ultimately result in 2 newly equipped high school gaming labs. So that is considered to be the #1 draw into computer science and coding, is to do it through a gaming pathway. And then there's interest and relevance that we have to balance here too. So computer technology such as Arduinos, Bobots, Raspberry Pi, Hummingbirds, these are all things that are used to teach programming. We'll have to use the literature review to really determine what's going to be the best draw for us. And growing the partnerships between Erie's City School District and our partners in this, the Erie Innovation District, Erie Together, Job Connect, and Mercyhurst are the 4 partners that we're working with here. So to grow those opportunities, especially because it opens a door to so many other agencies. When you consider like what the Erie Innovation District has done, they work through Erie Insurance, they have high-tech startups, they have a lot of things that we will be able to access for internships and apprenticeships with our kids, and that's just going to continue to expand, so great opportunities. And then the primary targeted opportunities are down at the bottom, primary and secondary. That's the meat and potatoes, I guess, of what it is our kids are going to get from this. So we were joking about how we let Afzal Iqbal from Mercyhurst be the lead applicant because he wanted that for his resume, basically, and because a lot of this is his legwork, and we didn't care because our kids are benefiting from every penny of this money, and in the biggest way. So all of those outcomes are things that our kids are going to experience between now and June 30th of 2020, when the whole grant needs to be spent out. So literally everything in this top part is happening in the next month. It all has to start right away, so that we can have things in place. We need coding camps by this summer. We need the labs open by the fall. It's going to be very, very fast-paced, but the funds are here to take care of everything. So, I think
This all aligns with the strategic plan, and when I look at this grant, I remember last year when we were talking about how we're going to do all this, with our limited dollars, and which you said put the plan together, you'll be surprised at how the resources will just come in. And I think this is a perfect example of that happening, that we had a plan, we had a goal of providing world-class education to our students, and especially our underserved students. And here this opportunity comes, and we were able to jump on it and get this grant funding. So thank you both for all your work on this.
I have one.
Go ahead.
So I just have one question. Sorry to put you on the spot. On the front part, you had noted that we're looking to draw female students of color, and then IEP students. Do we have a plan in place on how we're going to pull those kids in? Or?
Part of that is the high interest. The literature review is going to target how do we pull those underrepresented populations into an interest in this, whether it be to pursue a college degree or whether it be to get your high school diploma and to get some additional industry credentials. So I think there is a plan in place for that.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Are there going to be any additional resources for sustainability of the program going down the road? Are we going to need money after we spend all our $500,000 to sustain the program going forward?
What we will need is to continue to work with Mercyhurst and back build our curriculum in all the way as far down as is realistic, and that is not necessarily a cost. It will be continued work for the committee that's working on that, and really that's our facilities and our utilities, and I mean there are things of course that are expenses that will move forward, but nothing above and beyond what we're paying now.
At this point, I would just say that if it's successful, then it certainly will continue on, like you say, that you'll be able to find the funding if you're able to show from the results we started with, and if we do end up with some good results, I'm sure that we'll be able to find the funding at that point.
We're talking about partnerships with companies and
Right.
internships
Right.
and all that kind of stuff.
they're all
and
interested
really
in
getting
this,
local
right.
companies involved, and with the Innovation District, they really have a good handle on what's going on there. So we're hoping if they partner with us and provide some of that as well.
Thank you.
The only thing I can add is, my son's got a master's degree in computer science, and he and I talked in generality, what does it take to get to where you're at, and he was saying that math skills tie right into computer science. So, and the higher up you go into that, the more complex the math skills are. But even in that introductory level, I think we'll find an increase in math numbers, at least by those that are going to be enrolled in the intro program. I'm
Great fringe benefit.
yeah, enthusiastic. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Okay, responsible contractor policy, Mr. Polito.
Well, I saved the best for last tonight. I know that the board has been getting a lot of calls on this responsible contractor policy, and some of the information that we've been hearing is that there's a lot of misinformation out there about the changes in the policy. So I thought it would be a good idea to really kind of go through the policy, and Charles is here by phone, so I'm going to ask him to really talk about it. He put together some talking points that you have at your desk about what the changes are and what the impact would be on our policy. So Charles, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm here. It's
Okay.
a little hard to hear, and I'm sorry that I'm stuck here in Central PA. It's a car problem. Hello?
Yes. Are you ready to go over the talking points then? I do have a copy at their desk.
Okay. So I think we've addressed this a couple of times now, and I'm happy to run through it and take any questions, also clarify anything folks might have heard. I really, with respect to the responsible contractor, as I laid out in the meeting last week, I really identified two areas that were problematic. One was the requirement of a Class A, that a contractor participate in a Class A apprenticeship program. And that these programs are defined as registered with the state, and that they've graduated apprentices to journey person status 3 of the past 5 years. Again, as I said last week, I'm not saying that apprenticeship programs aren't good. I think if they're well designed, properly executed, like any job training or workplace training program, they're probably a beneficial approach for an employer to take. But I think everyone recognizes, or we should recognize, that it's certainly not the only way in which to train employees. There's other ways, and I would suggest that the district itself is very poorly positioned to make judgments as to the quality of employer workplace training programs. But that if expertise resides within the district, I'm not aware of it. And yet that's what the policy in effect attempts to do. I did research in terms of other school districts. As best as I can discern, only 2 school districts in the Commonwealth out of 500. In addition to Erie, have ever had a policy like this. One is the Colonial School District. There's an active policy that's still on the books, and as soon as it adopted the policy, it wound up in federal district court being sued. The other school district that had a similar policy was Bristol Township, that amended its policy in much the same way that I advocated for in my plan. I just think it's, maybe it's the day and age we live in, but I just think it's, it's basic economics. If you put more requirements in place, particularly requirements that are arbitrary and really have nothing to do with the responsibility of the contractor, the fact is that you're just going to have fewer people bidding on your work. And I think it's just elemental that if you have fewer people, you're going to wind up with less optimal bids. Your own example proves it in the work that you get out of Strong Vincent in 2013, where the placement of the responsible contractor provision in a rebid resulted in bids that were 48% higher for your work. I guess if that's something that the board as stewards, fiduciary of the Erie School District thinks is a good outcome, I guess that's within your purview. I've been hearing a lot of chatter from various folks about what other parties are saying about this policy change. And I think it's important, too, to point out, in light of it, what exactly the policy is not doing. The policy change that I'm recommending, first and foremost, has nothing to do with prevailing wage. It will not touch prevailing wage requirements, which are state requirements, which are state statutory requirements. It will not touch them in any way. So all the projects that you bid out that are in excess of $25,000 will, by function of law, be subject to prevailing wage. There's nothing in the policy change that I'm recommending that will change that, impact that in any way. Anybody who says to the contrary is just stating a patent falsehood. Secondly, I think as you can see very clearly from the red line version that I've provided, I'm not eliminating the apprenticeship requirement. Contractors who want to bid on your work and have apprenticeship programs, they can crow until the cows come home in terms of how good their programs are. There's nothing inhibiting or preventing them from having those programs in any way. All I'm doing in my policy recommendation is providing an alternative path by which contractors can be deemed responsible and therefore qualified to bid on the district work. And then lastly, I would just say that there is nothing in my proposed policy change that would in any way affect any of the district's educational programs or affect in any way any of the district's career and technical education programs. Anybody who's suggesting otherwise, again, just respectfully false. So it's a change that I believe will help the district make its facility capital dollars go further. It doesn't impact in terms of programs, it doesn't impact in terms of prevailing wage. And I think at least from my perspective, the district and taxpayers there would be net better off with the policy change and that they'd be able to have precious facility capital dollars spent and go a lot further than they would after the policy change. That's the end of my presentation. Happy to field any questions.
John?
I don't know if this one's for you, Mr. Zogby, but I'm asking someone in the district perhaps before you. The circumstances under that 2013 Strong Vincent rebid, how did it come to pass that it was rebid? Mr. Walker?
When the bid documents came through the solicitor's office, I became aware, I was working on that project at that time. I wasn't in the office as much as I am now at that point. I became aware that the project had been bid without including the responsible contractor requirements that were put in place by this board. And so I informed the superintendent, we came to the board, and we had the bid rejected because the initial bid documents went out without the requirements in them. And merely it was a function of the fact that the district hadn't done a project since the time that the requirements were put in place. And I think that we neglected to inform the architect to include them in the bid specs. And so that's why the original bid was rejected.
Was there any other circumstance or situation where we can point to and say where this was a problem as it exists?
There is no other situation where there was no other similar situation where one bid was done without and then another same exact bid was done with it. That's the only example that occurred in the history of the school district that I'm aware of.
Any other questions?
I just have a question about the aspect of the policy in place for the contractor responsibility determination that you're saying is at the back end of the contracting process.
Yes, I apologize. I did address the first piece. I did not address the second piece of the backloaded determination, but that is correct. Your present policy called for the determination to be made after an initial bid has been initially awarded. So you're potentially making an award to a contractor or subcontractors who may or may not be eligible, but that's only determined after the fact. It just seems sort of consistent with the state policy that it would be better to make those determinations up front so that when you make awards, you know that the people that you're making awards to are in fact qualified or responsible in this case.
So what are the differences between the certification requirements and the contractor responsibility determination? Mr. Walker? Mr. Walker?
The
certification requirements?
Yeah, the responsibility certificate, there's a couple different documents. So the way that Mr. Zogby's policy is set up, the suggested policy is set up, is that when the bid documents go out, the contractors are then going to be required to submit a subcontractor list, a responsibility certification form for themselves, saying that we are in fact responsible under the terms of your policy, and responsible certification forms for the subcontractors. That information will then be received. The district then would make a determination as to who the apparent low bidder is, and then take those responsibility certification forms, place them on a school district website for public disclosure as to who the apparent low bidder is for a period of 5 calendar days. And during that period of time, the district administration and staff would go through the documents to make sure everything is kosher. And then after that point, a notice of intent to award would be issued to that contractor and they then start the contracting process, which would allow for those contracts to be in place. The reason for the 5 days is such that we can open the bids, come to a committee of the whole, have a meeting and award 7 days later, when we have it, because typically we have our meetings after the committee of the whole. So that's how it's set up. Does that answer your question? And at the same time that we would issue a notice of intent to award, the district would issue a contractor responsibility certification, which is a document that says, yes, we determine that you are in fact a responsible contractor because you've met the requirements.
And what is the benefit of doing that after as opposed to before, or is there no benefit?
There's no real benefit to doing it later in the process because it adds time.
Okay. And is there any reason that it would not be beneficial to put it in front of the meeting?
I think it's just a function of time as to how long the process would take. Is that, Brian?
It needs to be closer towards the back end, just because the contractors are lining up their subcontractors. So they're going out and trying to get the best price from their subcontractors so that they can provide the lowest bid possible to the district. So some of that stuff happens, towards the back end of the three-week advertising.
There is a
period.
benefit
Yeah.
to that.
So they won't know who their subcontractors are once the bid goes
That's
out.
what I thought.
Alex?
So I don't know if it's as a question as more so as a statement. I guess I'm just really confused and I guess a little. I don't want to say frustrated because that might be too strong of a word, but I think as a public education system we have a duty to help those within our community. I do think it is our responsibility to make sure that those who are often less fortunate and protected by this here, the responsibility contracting with the district. And with adding the simple word of or, it might not seem like a big deal, but I think it really sets forward a lot of possible looping around union workers. I think it really sets the stage for us to essentially just disregard them completely if we decide to. And I really think that we should be endorsing a program and a policy that is homegrown. We want people to have livable wage jobs, and this is one of the few things that, as a district, that we can do that ensures those who are working and have the skills are getting livable wage jobs. So I would really advocate for us to not amend the policy.
Again, this doesn't impact in any way the wages the people would be paid.
But I think it circumvents the training that a lot of our workers and our students and our community members who often don't have the advantage of getting those jobs, it takes away their opportunity. And I don't think that there's any argue around that a lot of our family members don't have access to livable wage jobs because of other systems that are in place that hold them down. There's a lot of oppression, and I know I talked about it a lot because I think it's really relevant that as a person of privilege, I advocate for those people who are not in that same state, that this is one of the privileges that we can open up for them and to keep it in there, to get trained quality workers in our community who deserve that.
Mr. President.
Good.
All I want to say is that I appreciate the conversations that are going on here, but I separate it, and I really believe that what you just said should be said in public, and anything that we say here, please remember what you're saying so that we say it again when we're in a public setting. That's all I'm not going to make any comments in this meeting about this. Thank you.
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, maybe we should wait until we get to the public forum.
So we have a lot of people that are interested in this policy, and I understand that a number of people are coming tonight. So Mr. Zogby, as part of my superintendent's report, will be reviewing the the talking points so that at least we can get this information out and clarify any misconceptions that may be out there. Because again, we've been told that we're changing our policy to eliminate programming within the district, and we're eliminating the whole apprenticeship piece. So we want to make sure, at least as before we get that done, that information is out there. There won't be a question and answer during my superintendent piece, but once the item's up for a vote, that's a time for the board to discuss.
Okay. Anybody have anything on new business or the separations or any other matter before we?
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
Responsible contractor. I did mention last week that the architects did express concerns over the roofing projects that will be coming up here in March. I spoke to them today. Overall, they feel that there's a lot of roofing jobs that are on the streets right now. They've actually started reaching out to firms to see if they would be interested in bidding on our projects. A couple of them have turned them down flat, saying that they're not going to take any more work this year. However, they did identify 7 contractors, some in Erie, some outside of Erie, that may be interested in doing the work. I did have them check, and 2 out of those 7 do not have apprenticeship programs. So that would make it a total of 5 entities that potentially could bid on our roofing projects in March if we did not pass this resolution tonight. Regardless, I think, if limiting the field or with the economics out there, once we go through this bid process, if we determine that the prices are too high, we may end up making a recommendation to the board that we hold off on the roofing and the brickwork for this upcoming year and postpone that till another year.
Can we afford to do that?
We will work with whatever parameters that we have in place.
I'm just saying, if we have leaks, I don't want to wait till next year.
We don't have leaks in, I believe, the 2 school buildings. It's going to be 3 projects, Wilson, Harding, and the service center. The service center, I think, is in the worst shape.
So we're going to patch and seal until next year.
Mr. Seibert?
Well, generally, these buildings didn't start leaking this year. So while it's unfortunate that we do have leaks in the buildings, they've become situations that we found the ability to manage. I don't think that it's going to cause any devastating damage to the building if we do have to delay the projects, but the financial aspect of it could change a great deal depending on how busy roofers are in the area. So it'd be something that I would probably recommend if I think the bids are coming in too high.
Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Don't we have anything else?
Brian, did you say that's yet to be determined though? We haven't made that call?
Right, the bids are all teed up. We're just going to wait till the board makes a decision tonight, and we'll adjust the bid documents accordingly. And I believe we're looking to push things out probably early next week, Tim, is that?
Yeah, the architects are bugging me to get the final bid documents out. I'm waiting to know which version of the responsible contractor policy to put in. So once you make a decision and give us some direction, we will respond accordingly. They're looking for documents by the end of this week from me so that they can turn around and have the bids prepared and ready to go out at the end of next week.
I have a question. The people so you already have the bidders lined up for?
They've been talking to bidders.
So
Because
you kind of got a feeling of who might be bidding on the job?
they have a feeling on who might be bidding on the job.
Okay, so will this, I know if we decide not to go along with, the changes, will that make a difference in the people that are bidding on the job?
Yes, we would, right now, they're hoping that 7 contractors will be bidding. They said that if we don't adjust this policy, that only 5 would be eligible under the policy.
Did you say 5 would be eligible?
5 of the 7, yes.
And that would
Just wanna
include
make
all
sure
the
the
stuff
board
we
has
already
it.
like, that those 5 would meet the criteria
Yes.
of what we are.
Yeah.
I mean, still nice to know
For,
5 is
for
good.
3 roofing projects.
That's the roof.
Okay?
Do you have anything to say?
No. Nothing else?
What?
Thanks, Charles.
All right, we're gonna go to the next one.